What's up, y'all? Sparta here. Apologies if you hear this little USB fan that got plugged into my laptop, but I just don't want to get hot or anything like that, so I just have it plugged in, just simply for that. But what I want to talk about today, and apologies for the long hiatus, but what I want to talk about is the Galaxy Note 10 and why I'm simply just not going to bother touching that phone at all. The 10 or the 10 Plus. Now this isn't some Apple fanboy just because you see an iPhone that's right here, and this isn't just some disgruntled LG fanboy because you see a V40 right here or anything like that. This isn't me trying to take it to the man and just say, "Oh, Samsung sucks." This isn't me saying that. In fact, the highest viewed video on my channel, and I'll bring this up for proof, is comparing the V20 to the Galaxy Note 5. And I'll bring that up here right now. LG V20 versus Samsung Galaxy Note 5. 25,000, almost 26,000 views. So this isn't me just trying to be like, "Oh, Samsung sucks" or anything like that, because newsflash, the Note line is has been one of my favorite phone brands to ever have graced the smartphone world, in my opinion. It literally brought the age of phablet phones, which are now basically just becoming the standard size for a phone. So let me talk about this. There's going to be a Note 10 and a Note 10 Plus. The Note 10 has a 3500 milliamp hour battery, a 1080p display, no SD card slot. Now it does have, the big boy storage options that Samsung does offer. So I guess that does, God damn it, I guess that does offset that a bit. But regardless, no SD card slot. And that's even more baffling when you get to the 10 Plus. And like I said, a 1080p display. And it's a 6.3-inch display. Obviously, Super AMOLED, because that's what Samsung does and all that stuff. And ooh, it comes in the pretty colors. So everyone's swooning because of that. But guess what? The OnePlus 6T, the phone I'm using to record this right now, started at $650 with 128 gigabytes of internal storage and 8 gigabytes of RAM, if you get the T-Mobile version anyway. And this phone, this Note 10 with a 1080p display, this premium option, costs $975 for the base one. Now let's go to the Note 10 Plus, right? Note 10 Plus, your typical Quad HD 2960 by 1440p display, 60 hertz refresh rate, which I'll get into in a minute when I'm talking about like the OnePlus 7 Pro and stuff like that. 60 hertz refresh rate, does have a micro SD card slot. It is a bigger phone, so it's gonna have a bigger display, obviously. I'm not gonna get into pixels per inch and all that stuff. I just stopped caring about specs. If the phone is good, it's good. And no doubt this phone is gonna be a really good phone. But this is coming from the perspective of someone that has loved the Galaxy Note line since the Note 3. And I just want to talk about it. 4100 milliamp hour battery, I believe. Let me double check on that so no one tries to get on me about that. Samsung Galaxy Note 10 Plus battery. And it goes up to 12 gigabytes of RAM, up to 512 gigabytes of internal storage. But I'm trying to see here because it's not fucking telling me. So I gotta go to the pre-order page. Note 10 Plus. $512 gig. Samsung's site is out of whack. Give me 1 second. A 4300 milliamp hour battery. So that's a 300 milliamp hour jump from the Note 9, right? So, that's pretty sizable. That's good. Who knows if it'll translate into better battery life? Every phone manufacturer has always said, oh, bigger battery equals better battery life. Not necessarily. It also comes down to optimizations and stuff like that. Like, for example, my Note 8 and my V30 both had a 3300 milliamp hour battery. Both had an OLED display. Both had the same processor. One had 2 gigabytes of RAM more, which was the Note 8, 4 versus 6. What else? Both had basically everything. They basically had identical specs. They were just different phones, V30 versus Note 8. And my V30 legitimately stomped my Note 8 in battery life performance in every single aspect when it came to gaming, when it came to using it to listen to podcasts. Even my G6, which I think had a 3200 milliamp hour battery, also had better battery life than it as well. No, it had a 3300 because the G7 went to 3000 and people complained. But, I'm not going to talk about that. So, yeah. Battery life isn't always bigger battery equals better performance, because also my between my V40 and my 6T, my V40 gets better battery life out of my 6T, and the 6T has a 3700 milliamp hour battery, and my V40 3300. So take that as you will. So yeah, obviously bigger battery. 4300 milliamp hours, as I said. A 2960 by 1440p display, Quad HD plus. I'll talk about that in a second. And why I'm not impressed with that at all still. But yeah, let me get into this. The Note 10 Plus has an SD card slot. Both of these phones don't have a headphone jack. Samsung bought AKG, right? So, or Harman, which Harman owns AKG, so they own AKG. Samsung owns AKG, right? Why? And they made all of these ads, mocking Apple for taking out the headphone jack, right? Which they then promptly take down because, that just looks stupid. So yeah, we get into that. And I don't necessarily care anymore if a phone now doesn't have a headphone jack, because V40, G7, I'm going to get the G8 eventually and the V50 eventually. So that's not going to be that big of a deal for me anymore. Especially since I have a 6T and an iPhone XS, which don't have headphone jacks. I just don't use them for music, so it's whatever. But that's not the point. The point is, the Note line was for the power users, right? A power user feature is not only just a headphone jack, but arguably a headphone jack that has, good enough power to drive higher impedance headphones, more power hungry headphones, right? Why is it that it's only LG that's doing this? Why is it that it's only LG? Because HTC said fuck it, Sony said fuck it, and I don't really care if I get demonetized. I can't get demonetized. I don't get monetized anyway. But both of them said screw it. We're just gonna take the headphone jack out and put. Well, HTC has their audio tricks, so I'm not gonna say mediocre audio. People have said that HTC has very good ear scanning tech in their headphones and stuff like that. So I'm not gonna speak on that. But what I've heard about Sony phones is that they're still like the lower tier of the high end options. So that's something that I just don't see as a value proposition for me personally. But they also are the only ones that do 4K displays. So take that how you will. So yeah, it has a 2960 by 1440p display, which is still just Quad HD plus. LG, while they still do say, oh, it's a Quad HD plus display, so 3120 by 1440p display. So technically, you can say it's 3K. But they've been doing that since the G7. So that's just something that I feel that more, if you're not going to go full 4K, at least go slightly above to what LG is doing and make the phone screens a little bit sharper. Because I'll tell you, there's no issues I have with my V40 display at all. And that's just coming from the V30, which is notorious for how, shoddy its screen was, right? And I personally had no problems with it, really. My Note 8 and my V30 both had the same issues in the same spot. So it was like, whatever, take it or leave it. But no one ever talked about the Note 8 except for when it was, gargling in their mouth. But, it's whatever. But yeah, like I said, this phone is supposed to be for the power user, right? So we're going to negate the whole removable battery thing that's been dead for a long time. So I'm not even going to bring that up anymore. But when it comes to something like an SD card, the Note 10, the regular Note 10, right? I get they're probably trying to be like, oh, this is for the people with smaller hands and they just want bigger battery life and stuff like. Even though it's a phone with 6.3-inch display, but it's for people with smaller hands that still want a Note. I don't understand that at all, but whatever. There's that, and then there's none of them having headphone jacks, which say whatever you want about that. Now it's pretty much confirmed that no company really cares about audio unless it's pushing their own like wireless earbuds, but to each their own, or their USB-C earbuds or anything like that. But that's fine. I don't I'll just stick with any the phones I have for good audio and just use Bluetooth for podcasts as I've always done, but it's fine. But yeah, coming from me, right? If you've watched my channel since the beginning, you should know that I love the Note line. This isn't something that really feels right for me to do, for me to just completely say, yeah, I don't want the Note 10. But it doesn't feel like a Note to me. It just feels like an S10 or an S10 Plus with an S Pen now. People have been saying that since the Note. Some have been saying it with the Note 5, but it really came through with the Note 8. People have said that, but now it's really evident with the Note 10. That is just a rectangular S10 or a rectangular S series phone with a stylus. That's basically what it is. It's no longer the phone that pushes the boundaries for Samsung. It's just a slightly different looking S series phone. And that's what hurts me. because say what you want about, oh, the V40 is just a bigger G7. Yeah, sure. But there's reasons why I would go for a V40 over a G7. For one, I got these gigantic hands. Two, it will most likely have a better processor. And another thing is the V40 is definitely better in terms of performance than my G7 due to it having slightly more RAM. So that's just something that is a given for me that I would definitely take up. Has better battery life. There's a lot of things I would say the V40 stumps the G7 in. So there's not even an argument for me, but say what you will. Yeah. I might just end up getting the Note 9 off eBay or something. Just to have it. Like a 300 milliamp hour jump is not enough for me to be like, yeah, but do I really really value that? I really don't. Headphone jack aside, you don't know how I feel about that. I'm just getting tired of talking about it, so I'm gonna just be like, no headphone jack, okay, whatever now. And that's not the sole reason why, as I've stated. So, yeah. But are there any other Note fans out there that just kind of feel, I guess, cheated by what Samsung is doing right now? When you get an iPhone XS and you see a XS Max, you know they're the same phone with different specs, right? When you see an S10 and an S10 Plus, you know those are the same phone. The 10 Plus just has slightly better specs in certain areas. But when you look at a Note, it was never seen as, okay, here's the Galaxy S3 and here's the Note 2. Like, no one ever saw it as, okay, it's just a bigger S series phone with an S Pen because it had a different styling. The S3 and the Note 2, that's kind of a different story because the Note 2 just looked like a bigger S3 with an S Pen. I guess I'll say the S4 and the Note 3. The Note 3 literally looked like a notepad. It had that styling, right? Whereas the S4 just looked like a slightly better S3, right? So it's just something that I feel needs to be stated, that I feel just Samsung has just cheated the hardcore Note users that really enjoyed the phone because it stood out from the regular S series, because I never liked the S series phones. I don't know why. Every time I've tried one, I've had issues with it. The S6 was too small and got hot. The S7, too small, also got hot until I fixed it with some firmware stuff. Then it was running smooth and totally fine, but it was still just too small for me. The Note 5 was amazing for me. The Note 3 was really great. The Note 8 I love despite my faults with it. And my homie has an S10 Plus, right? He doesn't even I had to tell him to take off the case because he was having, signal issues with it. But every phone that I've had, maybe aside from some iPhones, never had issues with signal while having a case on it. I have a case on my V40 all the time. Never had signal issues with it. I have a case on my 16. There's some issues with the signal sometimes, but it's fine nonetheless. But I don't want to make this longer than it should be. I just feel like, I don't know. And he's also saying that it's stuttery, it's laggy, and stuff like that still. And I'm like, Samsung has said for years that they fixed this, right? But it's still happening. And I know there's this stuff like, the system cleaner and stuff. I need to tell him to do that as well, but I haven't done that yet. But yeah. If you're a Note fan, go down in the comments below and just tell me how you feel about this. It took me a while to make this video because don't want to sit here and just be like, screw Samsung, but I know I'm not the only one that feels this way. And it's not, cry my heart out sad. It's just disappointed. Samsung, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. This is Sparta. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for the support. Hope you guys have a wonderful Friday, or whatever time of day it is in your area. Have a good one. Like the video if you like it, dislike it. If you dislike it, share with people that are interested in sort of content. Thanks for 636 subscribers. I really do appreciate it. Have a good one.